But you know what? According to Mr. Alvarado, he had a verbal agreement, a directive, that he was supposed to do all the pictures for the junior highs and the high school. I have not seen the contract yet. After you see the facts, I hope you see who the guilty party is here. We have provided proof, not fiction. I hope you enjoy the best yearbook the CHS has ever seen, which was produced without any training at all. We never got a minute of training or support. I thank you.
My name is Ana Montes, and I've been teaching at Calexico High School almost 30 years. This coming year will be my 30th. That's if I make it that long. This year has been very stressful for our family. This is my husband, Frank Montes, the long hours. But you know what? I didn't care. Because I could see that in his heart and in the heart of our students, they wanted to produce something that this city has never seen before. I go back to being born in 1957. Many of my aunts, my mother's sisters, were class of 57, 56, and so on. They were great years with Primo Villanueva and everybody else. They were playing football. So we come from a long, long history of tradition for this city. I have seen their yearbooks. I have seen our yearbooks in 1975. And I can honestly say that what this city has been producing is nothing but scrapbooks. Their pictures, we're lucky if we get the names. And after many of you that have graduated from this high school will remember after 10, 20, 30, 40 years graduated from this school, your memory starts to fade. And what happens is that you start to think, oh man, what class was that in? Was that in so-and-so's room? Or I remember my friend, because your idea of what your classmates used to look like will stay with you forever. They don't get old. We get old, but our memories don't. So what happens is, when you look at the yearbook and you reminisce, because I remember my brother, Eddie Medina, he was a good player, he was a good saxophone player. He played with one of the first rock and roll bands in Calexico, the Latin years, and went on to become a policeman in San Diego and passed away in 2004. I look at all those years that I lived with my family when I was a little kid. And I start to look at the yearbook and I start to remember, and he loved to go and read. Every time he would come back, he loved to look at those yearbooks. But you know what? The yearbook for this year has text that we have never seen before. Those kids are writers. These members that are here, they are part of my AP Spanish literature class that I had last year. That I call them, I still call them, and I will forever remember them as the Rolls Royce of my AP Spanish literature. I have taught many classes. Our results for Calexico and the AP Spanish language and literature speak for themselves for over 25 years. These kids have ambition. These kids want to give back to this community and this school district. And you know what? Frankly, I applaud the extra time and effort that they put in. The long nighters. They slept at our school, trying to wake up at 2, 3 in the morning to continue to do the best job they could for this district. And it appalls me to see how this board, in the minutes that I've read that are public, how this board has decided that they're going to focus on 8 errors that the yearbook has. There was a recent article that was produced in one of the schools out in the East Coast, whereby one of the biggest yearbook producers made an error with their spell check, and they were changing everybody's name. And they had to reprint it to a point where one of the women's name was changed by the computer to Airbag. Now, that is insulting. The biggest insult this yearbook has, as if you look through it, if you take the time to look through it, because some of you guys might find it too much for you, but I'll tell you it's really worth it. The biggest error that yearbook has is they printed the name Fernando for Fernanda in one page. I counted 8 different errors. Everybody has errors, including our principal when he sends emails. They have errors. We have errors. It is part of the condition of the human being to be imperfect. But if you look at that, it is petty in my opinion, to be concentrating on 8 typos that don't hurt anyone. And to overlook the talent these kids have in the actual ability to use the Photoshop, to use things that the majority of our students don't have. They have even gone beyond to screen students for next year to make sure that they have the talent that is needed to produce a quality yearbook and go forward instead of backwards to the Middle Ages. And I'll tell you, the biggest insult, Mr. Rivera, is in those minutes when you decide to hold the stipend for my husband. Did you hold the stipend for last year when they didn't include the staff and they didn't include the board and they didn't include a lot of things, and your son sat on the yearbook and every time he needed something he had to get it from you? And we heard it firsthand from him. And the second, just a minute, the second thing, yes, from you. The second thing that I want to say is that you hold the stipend for every single yearbook. I have never heard anybody to fill the stipend. Now, I believe, and this is my opinion, that it is between Mr. Barraza and my husband. This is getting personal and it involves myself. And I'll tell you one thing. When you withhold payment of services rendered, when you decide that you're not going to pay him his bilingual stipend that is given, and it's part of his job, if he looked at the NOE, the bilingual stipend is not even included and signed by Mr. Barraza. He signs just like that without noticing that there's errors in the notice of employment. Those are the things that bother me as a teacher. I don't get any perks on this, but it really bothers me to see what the minutes look like, what things that are discussed in this meeting, both on and off the record, and it appalls me to see, because the yearbook, if you think about it, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. People are filling their pockets with money, and they're using these kids and their work to get their business done. And it appalls me that you would shun the yearbook and whatever it is, because honestly, nobody works for the damn stipend. If you look at the hours that these people have put in, I can vouch for that. I can vouch for that. I many times bought them food in the evenings because they were so dedicated with producing a product where these people could be honestly proud of them. Look at the last page of that yearbook, if you please, and you're going to see the time capsule of the things that were happening in this time, during this time. Even the earthquakes are included. Petco wasn't even an issue. And sometimes gossip and things that are not checked out by our principal and everybody else, it is like God said it. And you know what? That's not the case. Thank you.